Haere mai, from my heart place to your heart place, Laura, to Heart Place Hospital podcast.
Thank you, Jackie. Hello.
So good to have you, especially after you've had me not once, but twice.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, look at
that.
I don't know how that happens.
That's great. Balloons. It's a celebration, isn't it? It feels like it.
It is a celebration. I agree. I like to start by telling our listeners how we've met. So we're Insta buddies, Insta friends.
We are.
And we first connected with your podcast. Turns out she is psychic.
That was number one. Yeah.
I think that might have been 2022.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, it's amazing how the
I know, right?
flies.
That goes. And so I was a guest on that podcast, which I loved. And then last year, turns out she's a witch. I was a guest on there.
Right. Indeed. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm loving this when I ask people to send through their bio, and I know them reasonably well. Not that we've met in IRL, but we've met online.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think, oh my gosh, I am totally your hype girl, because your bio, you're way more than your bio. But because of the effort that you've put into writing that bio, I will read it, and then I'm going to add to it.
Oh my gosh, it's okay. This will be interesting. We'll workshop it on air.
Totally. So, Laura, you are passionate about sharing with others, whether this be your job as a nurse, which has involved working as a perioperative nurse, education, and now focusing on wellbeing of nurses and midwives. Tick, we've got something in common there. You've also been on a spiritual discovery and self-development path for a few years, which has led you to meeting with many people from all corners of the spiritual world, and somehow making a couple of podcasts along the way. I actually can resonate with that. I'm like, somehow
it just happened.
Which has been a great way to share these learnings and encounters with more people who are curious just like you. I agree. And you're currently studying a diploma in counselling, which I didn't know about you.
There we go.
That will enable you to thread a few of your strengths together and be able to offer a deeper level of service for those who resonate. So I'm going to spice it up a little.
Oh, let's get hot.
And where I want to start, I'm going to put it to you actually, is, and honestly, I've told the story so many times over here in New Zealand. I know you're in Australia.
Okay.
And
I'm nervous in the best way.
It's a good thing. And I just think you're a plant seeder. You're a seed planter. You're a seed planter, and then I have been amplifying that for you over here. And I would love you to share lots of things, but I think something that is just like coming in hard and strong, even getting a hot flush just to get you important.
Don't you blame me on your hot flushes, Jackie.
I know. I'm all good.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm all good with my hot flushes. They're my magic and what I desire. So I know I'm down with them.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. You did say we're going to spice it up, so here it is.
Oh, that's but what I really what I'd love you to share is your journey to, and then the implementation of what you've actually created in the perioperative community with what you developed with as you end one surgery and then before you start another. I know that you've created a policy, really, isn't it? That's been implemented, I know, within your state. Has it gone any further than that? And if you can share with us how that can out.
Are you referring to hot debriefing?
Yes.
After any sort of critical incident. So not necessarily between one surgery start of the other, but so it's a hot debriefing framework. It's a guided chat. So there's 7 steps, and it ideally is designed to be run or peer-led, so not bringing external people in. It's peer-to-peer, so it's facilitated by somebody who's comfortable with using the steps. It's not counselling or therapy, but it's just a way for staff to decompress following some type of incident that has produced a sort of a fight, flight, freeze, essentially, response.
Yeah.
And it lets people have that moment to just stop for a moment in a safe space, reflect on things, learn from it. So it's sort of guiding them through their emotional responses, or just letting them discover what that is. And giving them some education around, because we're all different, right? The way we respond. So some people will be emotional, some people will feel fine, and they will be fine, and they might be fine days later. But also, if they're not fine days later, if they attend a hot debrief, then they'll learn that that's the thing too. Like, everything is validated when we respond to critical incidents. We all respond different ways, and we, for the most part, can actually self-manage really well. But I found just offering a space for that to happen makes such a big difference. And so, yeah, that's hot debriefing in a nutshell. I didn't make it up. I didn't design it. It's sort of evolved from different pockets of equally enthusiastic people in different hospitals. And years ago, I think I started looking around for frameworks to use in about 2019. And so I found another local area health district, a neighbouring one up in the north. And they had a very similar model, so they're very helpful. And since I worked on my project and introduced it here where I work, I've shared it. I've shared it on to others. And so, yeah, it is procedural. And actually, the way that my sort of position has evolved where I work, it evolved out of operating theatres. And so now I work at a level that covers nurses and midwives for the area health district with a team within a team. It's not just me. But I'm very passionate about staff wellbeing. And so now that's sitting in a framework that offers some sort of additional extras, if you will, when it comes to reflective practice. So there's reflective practice groups for new graduate nurses. So in our area health district, they all get put into a small, ideally closed group that's facilitated. And that's not peer-led, that is facilitated by somebody with a little bit more experience. So every month we come together and we go through a reflective cycle. It's just based primarily on GIBS at this point in time. So that's for our new grads, and then the hot debriefing, and then also we'll got a little bit more work to do to offer clinical supervision to all nurses and midwives that may want to partake in that, whether that be one-on-one or group, and managers, right from the hierarchy, right to everybody on the floor and patient-facing, to make it an option if that's what they want to do. So, but the word clinical supervision can be often misinterpreted, because it does sound like someone's watching you practice and breathing down your neck, but essentially when you look into it, it's a reflective practice model. So it's all about talking about what you've done and learning from it. So you're reflecting and you're making goals and you're making actions on how to improve not only your clinical professional practice, but also it's a wellbeing measure to, again, make some space to do that and have it supported by a facilitator. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. I love it. I knew I loved it.
Yes, so it's sort of getting bigger and bigger. It's at a stage at the minute that it has been, I've been meeting with the directors of nursing for the various areas that I work with, and then it's going to a big meeting where it will get hopefully accepted, fingers crossed, everything, and then we'll be drawing up the implementation plan and really going everywhere with it.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's
I've got a good feeling. I think it's the right timing. The timing's coming in, and I'm not sure about you, but I literally can't be Adam and Eve in it. Like some things that I've done in the past, several years ago, I've kind of gone back to, and now they're starting to actually listen and be curious. And
amazing.
I just had an article published in our New Zealand nursing publication, which I it's kind of yeah, and I've had like 25 nurses contact me. Can't
Oh,
believe it.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's really is a massive shift. So
Yeah.
I've got all my hot flushes ready for you.
That's so good. It's so good. And yeah, it is amazing how that does come back around, because it's like you've planted those seeds years ago, but it takes a while for that to germinate and to pick up. And in the meantime, you've done so much, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I've got to sort of make a return trip to keep that going to the next level, right?
Yeah, totally. No, you're so right. Thank you for reflecting back on that. That's beautiful. I just did a post the other day actually in New Zealand. Only a third of our nursing students actually complete their nursing degree. Yeah.
A third. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the stats here.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, and it'd be interesting to see with this reflective practice if you saw an increase in it. I think it'd probably be worth measuring.
Yeah.
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 And so yeah, when I was listening to you say that, I was just like, wow, wouldn't that be cool? And something that we're working on at Heart Place Hospital is connecting with the universities and letting them know that we've got these, albeit not your typical support, but we've got these multidimensional supports that we can support our nursing students so that we can increase that statistic.
Gosh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of that third, only a third actually stay in New Zealand. They come to you.
Do they? Wow.
No. And so then it would be great if we are, you know, I've kind of changed the word from training to inheriting. If we're inheriting,
That's beautiful.
inheriting or you know, sharing the innate wisdom with our future carers, then we'd quite like them to stay in our country, please.
Retain. Sorry. Well, that just makes sense when it comes down to sustainability and workforce. So we know globally there's a shortage now, and it's going to be a long time before we make that, close that gap between our demand and what we have on offer. So yeah.
I'm using all my hot flushes, it'll be faster.
No doubt. You make anything possible, I swear
it. Thank you. Yeah, I think well, I think you alluded to it, and I talk about this a lot, is, you know, on our own we're really powerful, but together we're potent, and created with these covens, really, like these opportunities for community, for circle, for reflection, whatever way you wrap it up.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. And then we can start seeing actually, wow, you know, say I'd be like, wow, Laura, that really affected Laura. Gosh. Okay. And then it actually really gives us permission to actually feel. And maybe reveal and really deal with it. And so that we can be the healed healers that the world desperately needs right now more than ever.
And it's such a what would you call it, craft or coping or living mechanism to learn, because we're not taught that. It's not innate. It can become so, but unless you see that role modeled, or at least you're given the opportunity for that process to unravel and you know, have it be facilitated so you can learn from that. It doesn't naturally happen. This was born out of me, you know, experiencing burnout, or actually experiencing a couple of situations in theatres as a theatre nurse that I wasn't all too happy with, and I didn't quite know how to deal with. And then I was walking down the corridor visibly upset, and my manager just said, oh, is it 2 bottles of wine tonight, is it? And it was well enough meaning, you know, probably on another day I probably would have laughed and it wouldn't have hit the way it hit that day. But I thought, well, gosh, is this all we've got? Is this our support? And it was enough it gave me enough energy to look into it deeper. But yeah, I just thought, far out. This isn't quite what I need right now.
That was awe-inspiring body giving you that message. And because it did kind of kick you in the womb, you've created like you've never created before, and you've created something that didn't exist. It existed in another lifetime, but your innate wisdom came through and like, actually, we can create this and create it so that it fits and belongs. I prefer the word belonging. Yeah.
So true. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes, right. Because I did get, once I stopped feeling emotional about it and I thought about it, I was quite angry. And I remember at that stage we still had a staff counsellor on the hospital. And so I rang her up and I was speaking to her. And she said, "You sound so angry." And I said, "Well, I am." And then she said, "There's a lot of energy that can be generated from anger, but what else could you do with that?" I was like, "Oh, zing."
Oh, a little glimmer there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good because it's so true, isn't it? You can get angry or you can feel sorry for yourself. You probably do a myriad of all of it. But yeah, I just thought I like this. Like, how can we alchemize this? And yeah, so it's pretty big when you reflect back on it. So I'm glad that you're a bit of a hype girl for me, because I honestly said, yes, I'd love to do this podcast. And I thought, what on earth am I going to talk
about? Oh no, I've just put you up another level. I've just put you up another level. Let me hot flush that in.
Oh dear.
I always say once you pop, you can't stop. And it was interesting. The other day I got someone, an energy healer I'm working with, who's doing work on me, because once you pop, you can't stop. And he witnessed me, and I had gone into the school system to do some advocacy, and he just very non-judgmentally said, "I'm curious, why did you do that?" And I was like, "Well, because," and I went off on my rant, and it's quite evangelical, and then afterwards I paused and I went to him, "Oh, I'm a change maker, aren't I?" And he goes, "Well, I thought so." And then I was like, "Oh, that feels much better. Oh yeah, that feels much better." So I think what I'm alluding to is that we just got to keep creating these spaces so that we have an opportunity to really pause and reflect and listen to our awe-inspiring body. You and I know what it's like to experience burnout, and there's nothing wrong, bad, and broken with that. It's an opportunity for our body to give us a message. And I've said this a million times, but I'll say it again. I was tapped on my shoulder. I had 4x4s in the back of my head, and it took a Mack truck in my face before I went, "What the actual?"
Too busy for everything else.
Yeah.
Take another wound and keep moving.
Yeah, but no regrets. Like all those parts of me helped me survive to this point, and I got to a point in my life where I didn't have so much dependent on me that I was able to put the energy and these hot flashes into creating and normalizing and being an example for others. Yeah.
And that's it, isn't it? It's good that when you can learn from it, but just finding the time to stop. It's a constant practice because I don't always listen until it's a bit louder. Like today I went to my exercise class and booked this in with you, and I was so keen to do it, and then I realized it's literally the first day of school holidays, so I'm like, come on kids, you've got to be quiet. We're gonna go here, we're gonna go there. I was like, oh, I've done it again.
But look how you organized it. I'm well impressed. It's
happening. So and it's beautiful weather, so we are going to go visit the ocean this afternoon and have a little saltwater bath out there. It'll be lovely.
Well, I'm gonna kind of segue now your journey into the podcasts and your spirituality. And but I pulled some cards before we started.
Wow.
And my first card I pulled was the word love, which I've never pulled this card.
Beautiful.
And it's one of my core values. So I pulled love. And then what I thought was quite classic was, again, I've never pulled this card, but I pulled Goddess Inanna.
Nana.
So she's the queen of heaven and earth, and I have nothing to hide. I see and accept all that I am.
She's huge for me.
Is she?
She really is. Yeah.
I've never pulled her.
There you go. Are you
Wow.
familiar with her?
No, I'm not.
Oh, do I have a book for you and a person for you and a couple of episodes of someone we have interviewed for you? I'll send it all to you.
Send them my way.
Yes,
Send them.
I will.
Yeah. So but I just did read a little bit. And I've kind of skipped a bit, but this is a bit where it says when we can face what we think is dark or negative about us, I mean, really embrace it and see it for what it is, a beautiful, broken place that's a call for love. Then we can emerge more whole. We can marry the light and dark aspects of our being, and in uniting with our twin sister from the depths, we can stop projecting her onto other women. We can see and own the hot mess that we often are and not get sabotaged by it. The light must cast a shadow, and the high priestess is the one who gets called to love them both.
Mm.
So I'm loving that I pulled love and that I pulled her.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. The cards
Perfect
lie.
match.
Cards never
Yeah.
lie. Yeah.
Not at all. I love that. I'm so impressed.
I'm gonna segue now into your journey into turns out she's a psychic and turns out she's a witch, and I just want to share that with us, how that came to fruition.
It's really interesting, actually. How long ago? Let me guess. So my youngest just turned 7, and it was when it was before she was born. I met a good friend just at a exercise training group, and I know that I've already mentioned I've just done a training class, and I'm not a gym junkie, and now I sound like I really like exercise. I hate it. It's the only going to a class is the only way that I will exercise. I don't have the discipline to do it at home. I don't like it. I know it's good for me, so I started going to this sort of mums and bubs class probably around 10 years ago. And I met a good friend there. Her name's Tracy. And we got on really well. We did a boxing class together, and that was fun. And we did that for about 2 years. And then the gym closed, and we fell out of touch with Facebook friends, and that was fine. And then about 8 years after that, so we fell out of touch for quite some time. I had my second born, so a little less because she's just 7, as we established. Anyway, I went to this spirits night with my second mother's group, and one of the mothers that actually arranged it said, I've been to one, it sounds amazing, let's we hire a psychic medium, and she comes and we just sit around and she'll read the room and, you know, talk to us about who might be showing up for us. I said, that sounds fantastic. I've always been intrigued by that. It really pricked my ears. And so I went. I didn't know how the evening would progress. We all sat around, said hi to my friends. The psychic medium walks in, and it's my friend Tracy from the gym. No idea, had no idea that she even had those abilities. It's certainly not something we spoke about at the gym, although these days we would. Back then she hadn't done a lot of that development and that mentorship to work on that herself, even though she describes herself as someone that was always able to do it. It wasn't sort of developed the way she works in that professional sort of place now. And so, yeah, so it was a great night. We reconnected, and I just had all these questions. I was just so curious. And I said quite a few times I always was intrigued by someone that had that capability or that ability. Wouldn't it be cool if we just made a podcast? And in fact, I can't quite remember if she said it or I said it, because we thought we were a little bit funny as well. And so anyway, turns out She's Psychic was born, and it basically transpired that I would ask her questions, she would answer them, and we record it. So it was just like that. So that was really the start of a formalized spiritual pathway and journey that I went on, because we've interviewed some pretty amazing, interesting people, including yourself over there. And about 18 months ago, we stopped doing that because different situations well out of both of our controls stopped us having so much free time together and getting together to record. But yeah, we remain really great mates. We're just in very different places these days. So that was Turns Out She's Psychic. And I think that ran for about 5 seasons. We started just before COVID. So it was a really good time for us to get started, but also being able to share those light entertainment / insights, interviews with other people with their different insights to a wider audience, I suppose. And my husband's a musician by hobby. He's a vascular sonographer by trade, but he's also quite a great musician, I shall say. I'll be his hype girl. So he had all this recording equipment. He's got the ability to edit and do all the, producey things behind the scenes. So I call him Producer Matty, and he's the guy that makes the podcast essentially. So, and then we met Shannon. So then Turns Out She's a Witch started as well from there. So again, that was another curiosity, because I learned the word pagan. I didn't really know what that meant. My mum's from Peru, and I knew that was a massive agricultural way of living, even pre-Incan times, but certainly from the Incans and thereon, they just lived season to season, and honoured sun gods and moon gods and mountain goddesses, all different water. So it was just amazing. And then the Spanish conquistadors came in and they became Catholic, but they sort of lived with both those beliefs sort of combined, for lack of a better understanding of it. So I was always sort of aware that I had a seasonality attraction, like just living that way really felt good to me or made sense to me. And then when I heard about paganism, and it's very similar, they call things slightly different ways, but there's, they celebrate the solstice and the equinox as well as the turning of the seasons. And so, yeah, when I did meet Shannon and I learned all about that way of life, it just felt good. And so, yeah, that's the way I tend to live my life now, is honouring those seasonal changes. And obviously the equinoxes and the solstices were huge for Incans as well. And I know here in Australia, the Indigenous are also very affiliated with that way of living as well. So it's just amazing, all the different parallels that you find yourself living with, and all the threads and where your curiosity goes. Mine went to podcasts, so really platforming that to more people than just myself that are curious, because I know there's so many curious people, and that's really who tune in. The people that want to know more, or the people who know more and want to come on and speak with us, which is amazing. And it has taken us to some great topics and some wonderful people. As you said, you've been on Turns Out She's a Witch as well. And we've truly spoken to some magnificent people, and just feel so lucky that we get to do that and share it with people just like ourselves who want to know more. And especially the word witch these days can be still quite taboo. I think here in Australia, especially where I live, it's less so, but there's still, areas around the globe that people aren't as protected or as free with those words. And I think if they can listen to a podcast, it makes them feel less alone, then that's fantastic.
Amazing. And I think also to add to that, just seeing some normies, sharing.
Yes. Yes, with quite often a little bit of a potty mouth. There could be the old F-bomb thrown in just for I don't know. I wish I didn't like those spicy words quite so much, but sometimes I do.
I think they're a frequency, and our cells, our past lives, our DNA have been through some pretty big things. So quite a good way to quickly get out an energy that's not serving us. So
Oh, I like that. I haven't
yeah,
thought of it that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love all that. And so are you finding that you can mold the two of that together? Because you're similar to me, a bridge between the two worlds, so that science world and
Rich.
that magic world.
Yeah.
Um, are you? I was. I tried for many about 6 years of being inside the system and outside the system. I know for me,
Yeah.
I do better work outside the system and supporting those who are in it. And I always want to reiterate that Hart Place Hospital isn't about CPRing them and a bit of self care back into the fire. It's about really awakening our frontliners so that they can heal their boundary wounds, they can advocate for themselves and others,
Yeah.
and can craft a life that suits them so that they show up with that high vibration. And so yeah, I'm just curious, how has being the bridge been for
Mm.
you?
Mate, sometimes that bridge is burning and sometimes that bridge is solid. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, it certainly takes a toll. And I feel as though the more that I develop this side of me, it gets harder.
Mhm.
And the challenging days, well, everything feels amplified. The challenging days feel more challenging, and then the great days feel even better. So it can be difficult. And then I do look to other people being examples that both can work together. But I think it comes with a cost. There's a cost with everything, and I think there will come a day where I will probably slow one side down and pick up the other side, and that will happen naturally. And I think I'm probably nearing that time in the next couple of years. But I'm not, it doesn't feel done yet.
Mm.
But yeah, it doesn't always feel good. Some days feel great. Yeah, and other days don't. But I feel as though since I've been on my own spiritual discovery, and I've learned energetically how to support myself and strengthen myself, and I apply that to myself at work, but I'm very conscious that I can't go out there and start, imparting that on everybody at work, because it's a very different face there, very different role there. I'm doing reflective practice, doing all that sort of stuff, which is fantastic. And I love that. And I think when I look to someone like yourself, I think one day, how amazing would it be to have something similar here in Australia for our healthcare workers? So that's huge and intimidating to even think about right now. But I think, if I could dream half as big as you, I think that would be fantastic for somewhere over here, and probably where my energy would be more effective. Like you were saying, you work better outside, and I think eventually I will too. But not before I set a few things up and just see what comes through with these last few projects, see that to fruition, because a big part of that is the sustainability. So having it set up in a way that's not reliant on any one person, having it embedded in process and making it a procedure and hopefully policy and that sort of thing. And then I can kind of move on over to a different way of being.
I see you. I'm not sure if you might be too young for this, but there was a program called Lassie, the dog.
Oh,
And
I know Lassie.
oh, you
It's so
do.
nice of you to think I'm too young for that.
And, and I see you as Lassie and
Oh,
into these places and implementing these processes and policies and normalizing them, and you'll have the science and the data to back it, and then going on to the next place and doing that. I think in society they call it consultants, but I prefer to call it Lassie the dog.
I love it.
Yeah,
Much more official.
yeah. But I just want to reflect back. You are doing it, and we can only share as much as our nervous system will allow us.
Yeah,
And,
so true.
yeah, and so that's a lot of work I do on myself as my nervous system, because I had a complex,
Same.
I had a complex partial, I had a complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So I had
Wow.
had a long way to come from. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think you are doing it, and I think you're. I said this at the beginning. You're a seed planter,
Mm.
and for people, we need to meet them where they're at. And that's what happens with the Heart Place Hospital. If someone comes to us and this was me. This was me. So no judgment. 8 years ago, I didn't even know self-care. So I had
Mm.
to be met with self-care. And then I had to be met with mindset. And then I had to be met with how to energetically install all that. So a message I get a lot from my hype team is that I'm the conduit. I'm the example of what it can look like to go from the hot mess to the hot healed success. But it has to be met where we're at that given time. So normalizing that it's okay to be mad, bad, or sad in any given moment.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm back to the hype girl. I'm shaking my biggest pom-poms that you are doing. And I want to plant a really, really, like I want to plant like a pod. A pod of a seed and say to you when you're ready, let's open a Heart Place Hospital in Australia. Let's do the first flag staff headquarters,
Yeah.
and I've already put the paving down, so it's going to be real.
Wow.
It's going to be, like let's just whip
Yeah.
this up. It'll be that easy.
Just whip it up. Listen to
Yeah.
you.
We'll just whip it up.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, that's my little pod that I'm planting, my big pod.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
love the sound of that. And I love that we're recording it and we're going to be
Got a
held
time mark.
accountable.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
Remember that day?
all right. No, don't remember. I'll just hit play.
Yeah, exactly. I know I was thinking today, because I always think this is such a monumental historical time in the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank goodness I got the download to podcasts because I can share these with my grandchildren in years to come, and they'll be like, why did you talk like that happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my best friends said to me not that long ago, it was in a text message. She said, I was just thinking when you're older, your girls will always have your podcast to listen to. And I just thought, oh gosh, some are great and some are fine, but I would be more than happy for them to listen to. There's a few spicy ones, especially the early days of Turns Out She's Psychic, that will make their toes curl if they
Yeah.
hear their mum speak like that. But that's okay. Hopefully they're old enough when they find them.
Well, they'll be well and truly galactic and
Yeah, well,
how
that's
the world
true.
will be by that. Yeah, for sure. It'll be normalized. Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for reciprocating what you've done for me.
Oh,
And
pleasure.
yeah, and how I love to end our podcast is if you could share with our listeners what's in your heart place right now, what's coming up, what's something that turns out she's a witch is got on in the boiler, and how can people find you?
Oh, thanks, Jackie. This is so lovely. I'll start with Turns Out She's a Witch. So we've got just a few more episodes to go, probably 3 or 4, depending on when this comes out, before we have a couple of weeks off for our mid-year break, which will be nice. But we've got a tarot reader coming up, and very soon in real life, Shannon and I will be going up to Queensland, having ceremonial tattoos done by a lady that we interviewed earlier on in 2023, I think. So that's going to be amazing. So it's been on our to-do list for a while, and she intuits them, and does it in ceremony, and she's just a beautiful person. Her business name is the Elysian Heart, and Yeah, I can send you the link to that if you want to chuck that in the
let's
show
do that.
notes. But it was a beautiful listen. We got so much great feedback from that episode as well about her process. She does a blind tattooing ceremony for those who feel called to do that, and a beautiful mother ritual ceremony as well. So she's a beautiful person. So she very kindly said, "Let us know some times," and so it's finally going to happen in about a month's time. So we're very excited about that. And my big heart place right now is school holidays and spending time with my beautiful babies. And the immediate ocean swim will be nice to make the most of these sunny days as we're going to slide on into winter soon enough. And that'll be a nice time of rest. So these shoulder seasons always get me sometimes. I'm feeling a little bit angsty and but for the most part, just trying to stay grounded, look after my energy reserves, and really walk that talk that I've been learning. And I'm so glad that I can be an example for others, because I'm always looking for the example. I look to you as such a mentor, but I sometimes reflect back and go, well, if people see me making it possible, then they know they can do this too.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
True. Oh, I love what's in your heart place. I love that.
Thank you, Jackie.
And what about, where can people find you? I'll put this in the show notes too.
Yeah, well, Instagram turns out she's a witch. I do have a private one that I can DM from, but it's literally just a private one. I'm pretty discreet these days. I'm not on socials all too much, but I'm always on Turns Out She's a Witch, and that's public facing for everybody. But yeah, I can certainly open up DMs, and when I get some sort of business one day, you'll be the first to know, and your audience will be the first to know.
I'll get my biggest pom-poms out.
I can't wait.
It's going to happen. Oh, thank you so much, Laura, and look forward to sharing this.
Yeah.
And one day connecting in IRL. Yeah.
Absolutely, one day soon. Thank you for everything you do. Thanks for being one of my most bestest examples in the whole wide world and having me on here.
Oh. Thank you for saying that in me. I see it back at you.
You're very sweet. Thank you.